Welcome, everybody, to a special bonus episode of At the Table. We call these special bonus episodes Grabbing a Coffee. This is where I sit down for a 30-minute one-on-one with some of the most inspiring and fascinating individuals in our community, just like you would with a friend over a cup of coffee. We dive into their personal stories, their challenges, and triumphs, trying to get to know the person behind the public persona. So grab a cup, pull up a chair, because this week I'm grabbing a cup with Rodney Alexander. Rodney Alexander is a father, husband, member of Phi Beta Sigma Incorporated, member of the Proviso School District Board of Education, and is a senior parole agent with the Illinois Department of Corrections. Rodney, how you doing, brother?
Good evening, sir. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. Better rain than snow.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So let's start from the beginning, right? Because we're here to talk about your tenure thus far on the Proviso School District. So let's talk about how that started. Like, can you tell me a bit about how you became a Proviso board member?
Okay, yeah. I moved to Bellwood from Chicago in 2014, and I had been the president of Phil Jackson's Black Star Community PTA for 3 years, working in the city with education, that monster in Chicago called CPS, and just mentoring and working with Phil Jackson before he passed to keep that up and running. And my main focus at that time was community involvement and parental engagement in the educational process. When I moved out here, my friend Mike Burries out of Westchester had a son at West, and he was involved out here also, as well as in the city. When I left the city, moved out here, I got involved with Mr. Ned Wagner, had a parent and community engagement committee. And my son was in second grade at the time. And I went and got involved with that. I wasn't worried about the elementary process, but I'd heard some things about the high school. So I was like, I got 6 years to get this, under wraps for him. So let me get involved with this high school. So I started attending the parent and community engagement meetings and stuff, and then got asked about 2 or 3 times to run for the board, of the which I said pretty much stop cursing at me. Not a politician or whatever, but it was my wife that convinced me to walk away from about 30 grand a year at Mercy Home, which I was working at the time for 6.5 years as a youth care worker, to run for the board. And here I sit. So I often tell people I've got to get $30,000 worth of results out of the work that we do on this board every year. And for the last 6 years, I think we've done that and more.
Okay. And so you said Ned Wagner approached.
Yes.
He was part of the first 3 board members of the Proviso Together initiative, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me about your experience with Proviso Together?
It was great. It was a movement, and I really hated to see it dissolve, but I understand movements are for seasons and reasons. But it was great, man. It was great to be a part of that history, to watch the community come in and actually take back their schools and actually form and do the work. A lot of people will march and protest and say what they want, but very few have the stomach to go through what it really takes. And I'm telling you, man, I saw how the spaghetti is made, and my hat's off to Connie. I'm forever indebted to the group in Forest Park and even across the district, all of those that worked with them to get us in here, man, to really create the change that we've been doing. It was incredible. It was an incredible movement. And I didn't even really understand it at the time. Looking back at it in hindsight now, I have a better appreciation for it because I had no idea what I was getting into. I had no idea what this work really entailed. I'd never ran for anything on that level before. Mm-hmm. But just great appreciation. We'll always be thankful for Connie, Ken, Frank, all of those people. Those are the 3 that come to my mind. But there were hundreds of others knocked on doors with us and just really got out here and got us in. And that's the only reason we're able to do the work, is because the community said so.
Mm-hmm. So as we know, Proviso Together, it's kind of disbanded,
right,
for the most part, right? Can you tell me a little bit about that experience? Right, it was going great. You have this incredible community-led movement. Mm-hmm. Where did it start to go wrong?
I don't believe it went wrong at all. From what I understand, they just decided not to do it anymore. There was no fallout per se. I know we had some issues with one of the board members that's close and lives in Forest Park, and they're all neighbors and close with, and when that ruckus started up, it caused some some mixed feelings in Forest Park with those that were her neighbors and friends. But I just we ran unopposed the second term. Um, there was really nothing left to do, so I couldn't tell you to this day why they decided. I do believe they still have the scholarship program, but I have no idea. I never really talked to Connie or any of them as to why they decided to disband the 209 together.
Okay. So yeah, okay. So 209 together, and just to be clear, so 209 together is the scholarship initiative,
Right.
which is a slightly separate entity, but sort of tangentially connected to Proviso together.
Hmm.
And full disclosure, I did sit on that selection committee for many years, so I
Right.
want to make sure that our
Right.
viewers know
Right.
that. Um, can you tell me a bit about the previous superintendent and the
Hmm.
transition over to this new superintendent and kind of the journey there and what has been happening in that? Because that seems to be the kind of um, the linchpin for a lot of the conversation that I'm seeing in the community today.
Right. Yeah. Dr. Rodriguez was incredible. He built the brand and really paid attention to the needs of the community, and was really great with finance, educational finance, was able to help us find and discovered, or didn't help us find it. He found the money for the initial facilities master plan. We had a financial oversight panel when I was elected, which means that the district hadn't been managing its money. So the state has to send in sort of like overseers, oversight to make sure that the money is being managed properly. And for the last, and for the 10 years prior to us getting on the board almost, they would oversee the meeting. So the board would have a meeting and we'd vote on things, but it really wasn't official until the FOP came behind us and kind of rubber stamped it. So he was working within those constraints. He was able, by the time he left, to get us a 5-year funded financial plan and a fully funded facilities master plan to the tune of $77 million, which is what we
Is
have been
that
able
is
to
that
do.
advisory overseer board,
No,
is
no, no,
that
no.
still a
That's
thing?
totally separate from them. Yeah, it's totally separate from them. That's the work of strictly Dr. Rodriguez and the administrative staff. The
So
board,
that's
we
no
vote for that
longer
and
in
take.
place.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
So that's why the FOP left. They left because we had a 5-year financial plan funded in 2019, and the facilities master plan was fully funded. So they decided to get the heck on up out of here. The board was stable. Finances were okay in the district.
Mhm.
Um, Dr. Rodriguez decided to leave right during COVID. So he got a job up north in Zion Bennett and decided to leave. And we started looking as a board. I got elected president in 2020 during COVID. And we started looking for a superintendent to deal with the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is student learning. We decided as a board that, and when I say as a board, that's 7. I'm not splitting. I mean, a board is 4 of us for any official business, but this was a mutual thing. This was across the board, that we wanted a superintendent that would come in here and really deal with the lackadaisical attitude around our students' achievements in the classroom and do what the community really asked us to do, which is improve the schools. So we went searching high and low in the midst of COVID, sometimes meeting twice a week in person over the summer of 2020 to get us a superintendent in here. And we were able to find Dr. James Henderson. That came out of 2 searches. Ned Wagner, once again, was in charge of the search when I became president. He stayed in charge of the search. We did 2 searches. We started one, didn't find anybody, scrapped everything and started all over again. So we had about 90 candidates nationwide. We had a professional firm doing the search for us. And it's about 90 candidates that came through that we took a look at as it relates to who would be, we whittled them down. We didn't interview all of them, of course, but who would be the next superintendent.
And since he's started, how do you feel the transition has been to new leadership on the superintendent level?
I'll put it to you this way, sir, change is hard.
Mhm.
So it depends totally on which, like you said, what narrative you want to listen to and what your perspective of what change is. So there's some relativeness to that question. As a board member, it's been excellent. As a board member, it's been excellent. We're moving the district in a direction that I don't believe a lot of people believe it can go, because a lot of people that live in the district were not around when it was there. They have no reference point to know what Proviso Township High School's District 209 used to be. And you'd have to really go do some digging to know at one point in time this high school district was one of the top ones in the country. It
And
was not
and
always
what
this.
time period was like? What
We're talking
what
about
would you say we have to go back
probably
to?
40s, 50s, 60s. There's a gradual decline in the history when you look at the numbers right after. I want to say mid to late 70s, going into the 80s, it starts to go down. But if you look nationwide at most of your suburban school districts, as blacks moved into the neighborhoods and whites moved out, that's a common thread.
Mm-hmm. So you would say that there's a pretty clear roadmap of timeline of divestment from the school district as the demographic changed to majority black.
Oh, definitely. That's nationwide. That's historic. Yeah, that's nationwide.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking post civil rights era, post 1954, 1960, 1954 Brown v. Board of Education, 64 Voting Rights Act, Civil Rights Act, when blacks began to migrate into the suburbs and integration and, all of that stuff. So yeah, the white flight is documented. As a matter of fact, there was an attempt by members of Forest Park and Westchester to annex from the district in 1992. They tried to create their own high school district. This is how bad they did not want to send their kids to Proviso Township high schools in 1992. So we're talking 31 years ago.
So in your opinion, in your narrative, in your purview, you feel like this is a move in the right direction. Now, of course, we have a lot of people that think that this is not the move in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there's been some contentious board meetings in that and whatnot. What's it been like to navigate that?
Understanding the truth. A lot of people, if you sat them down and asked you to explain what's wrong, they couldn't tell you. There are things that they don't like. Mm-hmm. Well, no one likes change. Mm-hmm. But they couldn't show you factually anything that's wrong. As a matter of fact, the district's on a trajectory towards greatness. We're just getting better and better. Facility-wise, financial-wise, academic-wise. But you're dealing with culture and climate, and that's always a very hard thing. We're not talking about numbers. Numbers just sit there and do what you tell them to do. But there's a culture and climate in this district and in this township of failure. And people it's been here so long that I don't believe a lot of people even know what success looks like, because that's all we've really gotten. But it's very difficult. But listen, man, I'm a black man. I make no bones about it. Dr. Henderson's a black man. If we were doing something illegal or wrong, we wouldn't be able to stay in this town. It's not even possible. And some of the slander and things that are said about this man are just unconscionable, because there's no fact or proof to him. But we live in a society now where you don't really have to have facts. You tell a lie long enough and stick with it, eventually people start to believe it. And then there's that racial undertone that's just there. That's just real. That's just real, because all the superintendent does is what the board asks him to do. And this board has asked him to do everything that he's doing. And that means to make sure that our students, that we have administrators and teachers that are being held accountable. You've got to come in here and teach. Even with all the barriers and obstacles, you sign on for the job, you got to be able to do it. And we're going to do our best to get the parents and all of those other things. We understand a teacher can't do it by themselves. We're not expecting the teachers to work miracles. I'll tell you this, 95% of our teachers come in here every day. There's not enough money we could even pay them. They do above and beyond what this community could ever imagine. And I challenge some of these folks that have some issues, go over to the schools and see what they have to deal with. These are our community's children. So this isn't some foreign entity outside of the district. These are not, the teachers for the most part don't live in the district, but the children are our district. So when people say bad schools, you're saying bad neighbors, you're saying bad community members, you're saying bad children, because the brick and mortar isn't bad. So we all have to take responsibility for that. And we're trying to build that type of climate and culture in the district where people stop talking and dogging the schools. There's nothing wrong with them. Short of that, we have some children that are on the lower spectrum of getting the needs met and things like that, which is an all-encompassing thing. You're not going to get it done just on the high school level. These kids come to us with 9 years of habits. They've been in school for 9 years. When's the last time you heard someone talk about the foundation schools or look up the Illinois school report card on the district in Forest Park and see how they're coming to us? Mm-hmm. But then they get to us and everybody says in the freshman year, we're supposed to work. We don't have boxing rings in our school. These kids must have been fighting before they got to us, but we get dumped on like we're supposed to just click our fingers and work a miracle. We get 4 years, and that's the last 4. Mm-hmm. But they've been developed from the cradle to 8th grade. Where's the accountability there? We've got to we've got to get the language right, as Dr. King would say. We've got to get the focus right in the community. And I'm not placing the blame. Once they get to Proviso, they're ours. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what you didn't do. It's too late. They're ours. So we're working our butts off. Dr. Henderson and administration and teachers are working their butts off to get these kids ready for college and career. They've got 4 years before they're adults. It's over. Playtime's over. We could use some community support rather than, criticism. And I've seen very few of these people roll up their sleeves to come and help. Roll up their sleeves to come and say, what can we do to help? But everyone has an opinion. Mm-hmm. I gave up 30 grand a year to do this job. I don't get paid anything, nothing. And it is a full-time job to do it right. You got to be at the schools. You got to be involved. We don't get on the dance floor. We don't run the schools, but we got to support the superintendent. We have to meet. We got to go here. We got to go there. We got to do this. And then every 2 years, we got to raise extremely ridiculous amounts of money to beg people to serve them. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it for everyone.
So what does the future look like?
Oh my gosh, bright. It's incredibly bright. And once the stuff that we're talking about here, it takes a little bit of time, but we don't have to go all the way downtown to get across the street. It depends on how you want to do it. Now, if you want to go straight way and get it done like we're doing, then here comes the turmoil and stuff. We could smooth it. We could have made it a little more palatable for people. We could have done that. But guess what? Our children don't have time for that. Our children don't have time for a certain group's sensibilities in the community. This isn't the whole community. I ran unopposed for the first time in the history of the district. 78 people came out during COVID and voted for Rodney Alexander. They didn't have to. Regardless of whether I ran or not, nobody had to do that. So we're doing the work. We're undoubtedly doing the work. The community needs to understand what that work, though, not the community, that this group of the community that seems to be discouraged needs to understand what that work is and we're doing it and understand that we're doing exactly what they elected us to do. But I don't believe a lot of people understood when they elected us to do that, what that was.
Can you go a little bit deeper into what that is? Can you go a little bit deeper into what that is?
Yes.
What those?
Yes, we have a culture.
Are. I'd love to hear more about that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's the culture and climate. It's the lack of teaching, and this is really across the board. It's really a nationwide issue. Carter G. Woodson deals with it in Miseducation of the Negro in 1933, and it still reads like it's the same today. There's never been any study or inspection on how to teach Black children. They don't learn the same as well. So we keep doing the same things, expecting different results. 2 years ago, we made African American history a requirement for graduation. We've been educating children. You and I went to school. We may have gotten a smidget if we didn't get it from home, but we're sending Black children into the world without telling them who they are. And any person worth their salt knows that Black people in this country were stripped of everything. So we really don't know where we came from. And that's a part of the educational program, our process. Carter G. Woodson said the beginning of education starts with the knowledge of self. And we think that all students need to understand that, because when we see some of the atrocities in society, it's based upon a lack of knowledge or ignorance as to the humanity of African American people. So you start there with dealing with the population that you're serving. We have a predominantly Latinx population now. They have needs. that are specific to their culture. And it's okay. It's okay to say black or African American. You don't have to say black and brown because we have very few things in common. We don't come here the same way and our needs are different. Equity demands that we identify them separately. But they both deserve, both groups, all groups, even our small population of white students, all students deserve the same and the best, which means that we curtail or we hone our educational process to the specific needs of our community. And that hasn't been being done, which is shown in Illinois school report card, which is shown in the results in the classroom, the different behaviors and things. These are not bad children at all. They're children that require a certain sensibility and a certain skill set to reach. That's it. That's all. It's happening all over the country where you have folks that know what they're doing. And
oh, I think you froze up there. You still there, Rodney? We might have lost you a bit. We're gonna give Rodney a second to see if he pops back in here. It looks like there might be some sort of connection issue. If you're joining us, I am sitting here having a one-on-one conversation with Rodney Alexander, a member of the Proviso School Board, Proviso District School Board, talking about his time with Proviso. And unfortunately, we just had some technical difficulties. So we'll hopefully be able to get him back in here to finish up the interview. He was just talking about the change that he's seeing in the district. So yes, just give us 1 second as we try and get back. Okay, I think we might be back.
Okay.
All right, there we go.
I was talking
so fired up. You got so fired up. You broke the stream, man.
We blew the Wi-Fi out the water. So yeah, I think that success comes with its own sets of issues. So the district, for the first time in years, has money. We're doing infrastructure that has been neglected for years. Air conditioning. These schools have never had air conditioning. Brand new culinary arts lab, brand new auto shop, brand new football fields, working on brand new science labs, brand new machine shop over at West, brand new indoor track, all stuff for the students. Just spending money hand over fist on our students to improve their quality of education and learning. I think the union got wind of that and decided that they wanted to go Chicago on us during the last negotiations and ask us for 5% for 4 years, 5% raises for 4 years. And we told them not just no, but heck no, we can't afford that. But they saw money and then not understanding what the money was allocated for. Yeah, we have 77 million, but once that's gone, we may not have that again. And to sustain a contract, you have to have that money coming in yearly. The community can't afford 5%. We'd have to come to you guys and ask for a referendum. So then we end up in strike negotiations because they decided to strike. Ask me what they went out for and what they came back for,
though. I'd love to hear that. What did they ask for?
They went out. We offered them 3%, and they went on strike for 10 days and came back and took the 3%. The community needs to understand that the strike was not our decision. That was the union's decision. They chose to go out on the community and the students for money and came back for the same money that they went out on. So our students ended up making up 10 days. Vacations and stuff got pushed back because of the decision of the union. The board did not tell them to strike. We told them what we could afford to give them, with some concessions and things as it related to accountability in that contract for the community. That's it. There's nothing personal in that for us. We don't want to fight with the union. We don't want to fight with our teachers. We'd be crazy. That's the bread and butter. We're all here because of teachers. But at the same time, we've been elected to make those hard decisions. And the community supported it 100%. I was president at the time. I got not one call from a parent asking me when those kids were going back to school. Didn't get one. Because the parents in the community are not happy with what they're getting out of those classrooms either. They're not.
Okay. I think that's it. Do you have anything else that you want to say? Because the whole point of this is just to get your unfiltered narrative and reflections on your time and hopefully your time looking forward as well. So anything else you want to say before we sign off?
I just want to thank you, man. The opportunity to to just speak truth. Everything can be FOIA or fact checked. As a matter of fact, you ever need information, you don't even have to go through FOIA. Just call me, I'll get it for you. We're not hiding anything. But the racial undertones and stuff to this thing is awful. The community has to hold the line with us. You asked us to do this. You asked us for change. Personal relationships and things of that nature should not come into what we're doing. I'm expendable. Everyone's expendable. The community and the district is what's important, not our personal friendships, not our personal relationships with people, not our neighbors. If that's the case, we're no better than the people we ran against and had problems with. And we have to understand that we're elected to represent 10 towns, not one, not my neighbors. I can't allow my personal relationship with anybody to get in the way of my oath of office to this district. And that's what's happened. That's what's happened. And the majority of that, unfortunately, has come out of Forest Park. It's come out of Forest Park. I'm just going to tell it like it is. I won't say her name, but you know who I'm talking about. Everybody knows. So that's their issue. That's not, we can't get caught up in that. That doesn't discourage us. That's one town. I got 9 other towns to concern myself. And watch this. And that's a very small group in that one town. That's not even the whole town. The majority of folks don't even know what's going on. They don't even know. They go on with their lives. They send their kids to school and they make stuff happen. But you have a small group that's disgruntled for whatever reason because we're trying to do positive change. And instead of, they've never met with the superintendent. They won't even sit down and talk to the man. How can you have an educated, balanced decision on what someone's doing or not if you've never even shook his hand? You've never even sat across the desk. And he has his phone number posted on the district website. Parents call him all the time. You can actually call the superintendent of District 209. He'd probably come on here and do this with you. Mm-hmm. He's very accessible. But these folks determined when he got here that they were not going to give him a chance. And they determined that we were, sour milk because we were doing what they asked us to do. Nothing more, nothing else. And that's convert these schools. Change these schools for real. And I believe we can do it. I believe our students can learn. I believe that with the barriers and obstacles in front of them, given the right people and the right attitude, our schools can be just as good as it. And that's not fluff because we're moving in that direction. We're moving in that direction. It's a lot easier to get there when folks ain't trying to sabotage your car, let the air out your tires, siphon your gas. We can get there together. You want to share in some of the driving. I can't drive 24 hours by myself. Somebody can pick up the wheel and let me get some sleep. Come hold my hands up. Help the board. And we're listen, Connie will tell you, we've had our powwows and we are more than open to constructive criticism. I've been wrong probably more times than I've been right. And my approaches to doing certain things, but I'm not a politician. I'm learning as I go. And in those times, Connie has actually written things for me to say at board meetings that have helped me. So I'm open for anything positive. I have very little time or to hear grown folks whining and sniveling about things that they don't know about. Come ask me a question first, get the facts. And then if you don't like the facts, we can have a conversation. But the assumptions, the rumors, the innuendos, our students in our community deserve better than that. It's not personal to Rodney. I'm not getting paid. I'm volunteering at the behest of the community. It's not personal to me. So you're not hurting me. It doesn't bother me. This stuff doesn't come home with me. I'm going to do the task that I raised my hand to do. So help me God. And all I'm asking for is for some help. Those people that are choosing to do all these other things could choose to help. And they think that by flipping the board or doing something else, these people don't even have a clue as to any of the stuff that we've done or what we're doing. They just don't like a superintendent. Wow. And that's a reason to run against a board that has done nothing but great things because you don't like the superintendent that you don't understand and won't sit down and have a conversation with. Well, I'm going to say this, and it'll be probably the last statement I make. It'll be at 29:55. Maybe the skin color has something to do with it. Because he's done nothing but great stuff. And I say it all the time. If he was a white superintendent, his face would be plastered all over everything. Got us through COVID. This man came in at the height of COVID and remote learning. Got our students through remote learning. Has got the fund balance where it's supposed to be and is getting ready to unveil another $71 million to continue the construction. We are under budget on all of our construction to the tune of $12 million. We have independent auditors, so people can say he has. I mean, some of the most heinous stuff. I won't even repeat it that they said about this man. None of it's true. None of it's true. But these are the people that want to be in charge of our children's education. They can't even be responsible adults, and that's why I have a problem with it. So I'll fight against that because our work demands to the community that we continue, and that we continue to do what we're doing. And I challenge anybody to find me proof positive of one thing this board's done wrong. Just one. I ain't said 5 or 6. Find me one thing this board has done wrong. This is an incredibly effective school board because we're not politicians and we don't care what people say about us individually. We're hired by the entire district to do what we're doing, and that's what this board has been doing. That's it. That's all. There's one board member on here that I would question, and I'm not going to mention or get into that right now. But the rest of us, yeah, and even that board member, I still believe in their heart of hearts wants to do the right thing. They just don't know how to work with the board to get it done. And that happens. That happens. But no, there's nobody on here doing anything. None of the stuff that's been heard of in this district before we were elected. So where's the problem? Where's the problem, people? No, there's no problem. Folks are tired. They want the feel good stuff. And it's just a small group. It's just a very small group. So when you were saying about the disparities and stuff coming from Forest Park, yeah, you're going to hear it. But I promise you, if you go to Maywood, Bellwood, any place else, they ain't going to know what you're talking about. You go to Melrose Park, or you go to Stone Park, or you go to not Franklin Park, or maybe Westchester might a little bit. Hillside, yeah, they might a little bit. Most of the towns that are predominantly white have been having some issues. And these towns are the towns that send the least amount of students to our schools. They don't even send their children to our schools, the majority of them. And I'm just going to tell it like it is, man. I have nothing to lose. I'm not being facetious. This is what I've seen for the last 2.5, 3 years. These people were nowhere to be found when Dr. Rodriguez was here. We heard nothing from these people when he was here. I think the mix of COVID, Dr. Henderson coming in, and then the mix of St. Joe's being closed. It's like a perfect storm of things happening. Mm-hmm. And now these folks have to send their students back to West and have to send their students back. And so now here we go. So here they come. Everybody's got to sit at home and pay attention and listen. We've had some hiccups, rough starts, stuff like that. But
quick little context there. So Rodney just mentioned St. Joe's being closed. St. Joe's was a Catholic school, all boys school, correct?
I think it was all boys initially, but towards the end, it was.
When I was a kid, I remember it was being all boys, but it was
cohort. Yeah, it was co-ed.
They closed at the end of the 2021 school year.
Yeah, and that left a great big void in the community as it relates to those who did not prefer to send their kids to Proviso West. Or Proviso East, for that matter. I would imagine folks from all over the city went to Joe's. But in this district specifically, strong St. Joe's support. And that closed 2 years ago. So we saw...
neighbor lived across the street from my grandfather. Their son went to St. Joe's, I remember.
Yeah, a lot of great folks went there. Great school. But so you got this perfect storm and this attention, but instead of coming and asking, how can we continue the help and the good work, then we started getting the attacks. And maybe the next time I come on, I know how much time we got. I can tell you exactly where those attacks came from and how they were started. They started about 2 hours. Yeah, 2 hours after we hired Dr. Henderson, the attack started.
Yeah. So this was really like if you notice, I didn't question anything. I didn't challenge you on anything. Right. This was just to give you the space to give me your unfiltered narrative.
Yeah.
I would love to have you back sometime to do more of an in-depth thing that would be more of a back and forth. I appreciate that you said that you are open to that, so I would love to do that with you sometime. That would be lovely.
We've got to inform the community, and I got my phone number on my business card for the district. People can reach me anytime. I got like 3 or 4 different emails, so you're getting around to the emails and the social media. You catch me if you can. The best way to reach me is to text me. The best way to reach me is to text me. But anytime I can come out and do a roundtable, people want to ask questions, I'm all for that, because the community needs to really know. They really need to know exactly what's going on from the horse's mouth. And then once you hear it from me, you can definitely hold me accountable to it, because I'm not going to lie. I don't have to.
Yeah, I would love that. Thank you so much. So that's about it. That's all the time we have for this week's episode of Grabbing Coffee. I really hope you enjoyed the sentiment conversation and got to know Rodney a little bit better. If you want to hear more from Rodney, he already told you how to reach out to him.
Rodney Alexander on Facebook.
Websites or anything that you want to plug, or you're all good on that?
Oh, no. I'm on Rodney Alexander on Facebook, standing on the field at Proviso East. Rodney Alexander on Instagram. My phone number is on my Facebook page if you're my friend, but just ask around. Everybody knows how to reach Rodney. So if you want to reach me, it's not hard to.
Sounds good. I'm going to put you backstage. Hang on for a minute. I'll talk to you after I sign off. All right?
Great.
So everybody, that was Rodney. That was a great conversation. Please don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and collectivistmedia.org for updates and more information about the change makers and issues we are highlighting on the show. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and don't forget to click the bell. It's somewhere down here. I'm not quite sure where, so you get notified every time we post a new episode. And that's about it. Echo love, everybody. Peace.